Throughout this course, we're emphasizing the use of scientific principles in your organization, identifying causes and effects, modeling your strategy with mediating and moderating variables, tying those variables to measures and thinking about the measurement error that is naturally going to arise. Using scientific methods, well, what could possibly go wrong with that? To get a sense of the challenges, it's useful to step back in history a little bit and think of the scientific management movement, sometimes called Taylorism, in honor of the person who popularized it in the early 1900s, Frederick Winslow Taylor. Taylor was the first proponent to specifically lay out the application of scientific methods to management in, again, the early 1900s. And so this was a time of a real feeling of scientific utopianism. Medicine had made great bounds with the vaccines and cures for diseases. Elevators allowed the growth of skyscrapers, electricity, phones, all of these wonderful inventions that completely changed and, I would argue, greatly improved our lives. But there's a dark side as well. At the same time that all of these wonderful advances were occurring in the late 18 and early 1900s, there was a lot of social concern that scientists had opened Pandora's box. And the same years that, and the same scientific advances that gave us all that wonderful progress also gave us World War I and World War II and the awful devastation allowed by new technology in armaments, all the way up to nuclear weaponry. Great advances in medicine led to concerns about eugenics and many awful things that happened in the early 20th century. So scientific management, and in fact, applying scientific methods to organizations in general, rests on a very important social fault line, which is the debate over whether science is a vehicle for progress or opening Pandora's box. Well, that's one social fault line. Here's another social fault line which looms very large in every organization today, just as it did in the early 1900s. And that's the tension between the managed and the manager. You know, it's wonderful to say that we're going to create a causal model that lays out our business's strategy, and we're going to take careful measures of how well we're achieving that strategy. But remember that when you're measuring organizational performance, you are also intruding on the autonomy of the people within your organization. They are being observed and monitored and quite possibly being ordered what to do. So the second social tension here is that not everyone likes to be told what to do, and it removes their ability to be free to choose the best strategies as they see them. So this actually is a cautionary tale, again, from Taylor. Taylor, when he wrote his famous book on scientific management in 1911, didn't necessarily show the social sensitivity that we now recognize is so important within any organization. His view was that the scientists were the only people smart enough to actually identify cause and effect relationships and to design processes to be as efficient as possible. And he literally went so far as to refer to the workers in the organizations that he was studying as animals. He referred to them as gorillas, oxen, beasts of burden, who couldn't and shouldn't be asked to apply their own brains and initiative to the organization. Instead, they should simply do what they were told, and their managers should monitor them carefully to make sure that they were. So these two social tensions, progress or Pandora's box, and the tension between the managed and the manager, are going to run through any application of scientific management to organizations. Now, that said, let me say that I, like most people who study performance measurement, am a big fan of applying scientific methods to the organization. We need to be sensitive to the social tensions that we're going to create. And more importantly than that, we need to recognize that organizations are not physical sciences. They are not, people are not chemicals. People are people and need to be treated that way. And this observation has led to 3 critiques and related improvements to the original depiction of scientific management. First is the human relations critique. The human relations critique criticizes scientific management for not understanding that people value their autonomy. They value their ability to make decisions on their own behalf and find their own solutions to problems that they face inside the organization. People are not animals, and nothing we should do in the organization should make them feel that way. The second critique is the organizational critique. The problem here really is one of bureaucracy and structure. So, sure, it's great to think that we're going to have very smart people apply their brains and their time to identifying causal strategies and linking those to measures and bringing those into the organization. But how much bureaucracy is it going to take to make that happen? Many applications of scientific methods in the organization fail because there are simply too many layers of people distant from the work being done within the organization, and instead being imposed by people who are far away, going through many layers of bureaucracy. Ultimately, when it filters down to helping an individual in the organization accomplish their goals, that bureaucracy may cause more problems than the application of scientific method is able to solve. Finally, we have the strategic critique. The strategic critique recognizes that when we apply scientific methods to our organization, we're applying scientific methods to people. Okay? While chemicals and to some extent animals won't really change their behavior depending on how we measure them, people will. And in particular, if we identify our strategy and identify the measures that capture our strategy as well as we can, and then hold people accountable for those measures, what's going to happen? People are going to think very strategically. They're going to game the system by manipulating what they do in order to make the measures look better, the proxy measures, the shadows of performance, rather than actually improving the form, the underlying construct, performance itself. And that's what the organization needs to care about.